And top intelligence sources have now told CNN News 18 that a Chinese spy operation has been busted in the United States. 4 Chinese nationals have been charged with espionage. US agencies have bust this Chinese intel recruitment operation. Their plot was to target and recruit individuals. The time frame that the US officials are looking at is from 2008 to 2018. Now, these targets allegedly recruited to provide information to the Chinese government. That's the allegation that the Justice Department is now making. Professors and law enforcement officials were on the target list of these Chinese spies. Suspects used Institute for International Studies as a front. ISS sponsored all expenses paid trips to China for these targets. That's another allegation that is being investigated. And the US is now looking at a plot to influence foreign and security policies on their soil by Chinese entities. Now, this was a 4-man unit that was tasked with stealing information of value to China. The unit allegedly recruited individuals to counter anti-China protests. Charges that they have been charged with, in fact, carry a maximum prison term of 5 years and a fine of $250,000. Pathikrit Payne, a geopolitical analyst and security analyst, now joins me on this broadcast to put this in perspective of what really it means. Now, this is going to further make ties between US and China frosty, isn't it? It all started when the US openly accused Huawei and then Chinese officials of trying to meddle in the internal affairs, trying to undermine the law in the United States.
Well, this operation of China and this kind of activities have been going on for probably more than a decade now. And let me tell you, as you rightly mentioned, about how they have been trying to cultivate the law enforcement officers, university professors, especially from science, technology, engineering departments, for stealing technology and to actually control the narrative. So let's understand this. This is something they're trying to do in India as well. So a lot of people who are into think tanks and universities and law enforcement agencies should be very careful about these fake think tanks in whose pretext these intelligence officers from China actually try to, control the narratives and, give them gifts and make them assets on behalf of the government of China. So that's one part of it. The second, we have to understand at the same time, there has been a prosecution by the federal government of United States against 2 specific persons who were trying to undermine the federal investigation against a major Chinese company, which is Huawei. That also happened at the same time. So there are 6 Chinese, intelligence officials who have been basically prosecuted and charged against. Now, the larger perspective is this. For China, the kind of technological penetration they have done across the world through their weaponized telecommunication, the number of Chinese agents who work on behalf of Chinese Communist Party is humongous. There has been a report by MI5 about the level of infiltration that has happened by Chinese agents inside the Parliament of Britain. And I think in case of United States, the thing is not very different. In United States, there are allegations that the Chinese are buying up lands very near to major American defense installations to keep an eye on the American Air Force. The other part is very important to understand when it comes to technology companies. We have seen when Men Wanzhou, who was arrested in China, who was one of the top directors of Huawei, China in retaliation arrested 2 Canadian officials whose name was Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor in retaliation. Until the time Meng Wanzhou was not released, these people were kept under false allegations of being arrested on case of drugs. So this is a basic cat and mouse game which is going on. There is a strong possibility that in case somebody is there in China who is from US origin, China might try to arrest in a retributory action, and this is going to continue. What is happening now, the West is now realizing the manner in which the espionage of China has been going on for a long time, for stealing technology, for using technology as a backdoor for stealing information, and for cultivation of assets in the name of fake think tanks. And this is something which we have to understand. The level of penetration of the Western agencies in China is very limited, contrary to the level of infiltration that China has done across the spectrum of the West, and including in India, where they have been trying for a long time. Remember, a few months back in Noida, a so-called safe house of the Chinese was busted by the UP police, and 15 to 20 Chinese nationals who used to regularly meet and who were staying illegally in India actually escaped before the police could arrive. So this is the global phenomena happening where the Chinese, and right now as the Chinese president got his third term, the level of infiltration, the kind of espionage, the kind of stranglehold, the way what they call it, the transnational repression of any dissident voice that China would try to do across the world will increase. And so while United
Absolutely.
States...
And President Xi Jinping actually set the tone when he made that speech at the CCP event, where he said that, it's either by force or by any other means, but anything that threatens security or anything that threatens the expansionist policies of China will be dealt with accordingly. So we can only imagine what kind of response would come to the fore from Beijing as far as this particular case is concerned.
Yes, you're right. And let me tell you, every major Chinese company has an alleged internal cell which is accountable to the Chinese Communist Party for driving the political agenda and for ensuring compliance with political directives, which means, look at Huawei or many other major companies like ZTE or even Lenovo. These organizations are part of something called PLA 863 program. 863 program was of the government of China to create these major telecommunication and electronics and networking giants who would spread their net across the world, and through which allegedly they would do this espionage in the interest of driving the Chinese footprint across the world and the Chinese philosophy and the Chinese Communist Party's ideology across the world. So as we see what is happening in case of West, there is an unfortunate indispensability when it comes to the Chinese market and the Chinese manufacturing that the West depends on.
And that's really what they're looking to exploit. That's really what they're using as a tool to exploit and try and foment trouble. It has come to the fore. It has been busted and exposed in the United States. Whether there are more instances worldwide and do they come to the fore, that of course remains to be seen. Pathikrit Payne, thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. A quick break. We'll be back.